Good morning everybody, and welcome back to Effingham Golf Club for another video blog from here on a very wet day and cold, by the way. Don't need to tell you that, I'm sure you're all experiencing the same. Very busy still. The fourth path, continuing with that, we're almost there now. It's the last bit of vinyl carpeting to go on, which will finish that path, and then a big push up on the fifth path. As you can see, it's all coming together up there. We will get that one finished and let it all settle down ready for opening. The woodland management, that's gone on hold for a little bit just because I can divert some staff onto these paths and try and get the winter program ticked off, of course. But we have started cutting greens, cutting tees and approaches, and starting to get the bunkers back into order, ready for opening, which hopefully won't be too far away. Onto the woodland management, as I said, we've put on hold at the moment, but we've caught up with it. We're pretty much up to speed. A little bit of stump grinding still to do, which I'll get the stump grinder back in when I get a member of staff available. I'm going to move on to a video. I'm going to go indoors and have a chat, and I'll put some videos up and explain a little bit more detail of our woodland management and some other little projects we've got going on by the time you come back, and explain why we do things and what the reason and rhyme behind them. So we'll move on to the next video, and I'll catch you up there. Take care. So here we are with another picture here of us aeration. We've talked about aeration, how important it is that we keep the water moving through these greens and keep these roots aerobic and not anaerobic. So it's one of the number one tasks in greenkeeping. If we get this right, it helps us with scenes like this. It's the 15th when it rains hard and we get this river running through it. Over the years now, with drainage in there, we've managed to eradicate this big puddle down to a much smaller one, but the aeration after this plays a massively important part if we're going to avoid areas like this where the grass is deoxygenated, the roots are deoxygenated, we get the thinning out, we get a very poor spongy surface. So aeration is very important, but it's not just aeration. The first thing we need to do is get the air and light on this golf course, and this is where our woodland management comes in, of course. Now, we do everything under the watchful eye of the Forestry Commission. We have to get planning permission, we have to get licenses to do any of our work before we start. And areas like this, when I first came, this was a big planting program did up the first. Now these trees were never going to grow into trees. They were just going to shoot up, have a very short life, become a tangled mess and a very unmanaged area, much similar to what you're seeing now. So this is why our woodland management, no air or light getting onto any surfaces. We're dealing with the ash dieback at the same time now as well. So this is up to our woodland management program at this current time, and it's something we're dealing with in-house, and we're very successful at it at the moment. So when we get these trees down, we get this woodland sorted out, we can start dealing with our par light. Par light is what produces good grass growth. It goes from a spectrum of blue to red, and we need to keep the numbers quite high if we want to get good growth. We do that by not having our grass in shade. So par light is very important for us, and it's something we measure here at Effingham Golf Club. We did a year's study and found areas which needed to be dealt with, areas which were in shade. Once we get this wonderful sunshine onto our grass areas and air and light moving, then we can start improving the areas. We make them much stronger, their rooting's much better, and it's going to help us with the battle with the dreaded disease. Disease is mainly formed in the winter because of low light conditions anyway, short days and overhead cloud. But once we get it right, we can get better root zones, better growth. So as an example here, this is the fourth green before we did woodland management, and this just shows you how much shade the green was sitting on a frosty morning. Now this would have sat there nearly all day. The frost would not have moved off this green. This is a photograph from up at the fifth tee looking down, and it just demonstrates how much shade that green sat in, and that would have been there all day, given a very poor winter surface and not a very good summer one in some cases. So it's important that these greens get air and light on them. It's the fundamental basics. This was after we'd done some work on there. I think the picture was taken at the same time as the one in shade, just to give you an idea of the improvement. So with that now, you can see the improvement on the fourth green by just getting air and light. It's very, very basic. This is the 10th hole taken a few years ago, and you can see the trees up on the left, the bushes we took out. You can now see the trees on the right hand side which are planted, and you go and see those today and you see the size these trees are going to get. In the end, they will dominate the front of that hole. It'd be very difficult to get a shot off there. This is the 11th hedge, of course. Now this shows you the width of the 11th hedge. Now it took about 5 years in planning before we could start this, but that hedge was nearly 10 metres wide. When we started, that's an awful lot of ground we'd lost, and there's the height of it. So this hedge was just bolted up and started collapsing on itself in the end. So this was a job that desperately needed doing. Like I say, it was 5 years in planning. Hedge work is very difficult to get planning to do. It has to be done right. So once we get hold of it, what you're looking at there is the original line of the hedge. That's the original hawthorns in there, and each side you can see the thickness this hedge ended up at. So it was a job that needed doing. It's probably done about, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago now, if memory serves me. But this is where we are today with the hedge. It's now a manageable hedge. It's now filling in nicely, and this is one we can manage ourselves, keep trimmed up and keep cut. Better diversity of wildlife, we'll get the more songbirds, we'll get in there nesting. So it's a good all-round task and good woodland management. This was a job we did down at the Forth when we was cleaning that Forth hole a few years ago. Some of you will remember an awful lot of large hazel on the left hand side encroaching towards the green, and of course the hedge at the back. So when we took it down, we really did open up towards the house at the back. But if you look there now, that's all coppiced back up to the point it's a hedge and we can now handle it. So that was also good woodland management down at the Forth. And go on to this picture now. This was the first hole a few years ago, and you could just see how the difference it looks today. Okay, the bunkering as well, but how close the lime tree was to the tee, and the trees on the right coming in. So woodland management, par light, good surfaces, it all ties in. This is why we do woodland management. Hope that last bit of video there helped explain about our woodland management and what we do here and why we do it, and the importance of it, of course, getting that par light onto our playing surfaces. The machine you're looking at the moment is an Air 2 G2. This is a fairly new aeration machine. It injects compressed air down deep into your playing surfaces. You're going to be going across the greens. We've got it hard in the middle of February for a week and can take full advantage of this lockdown. So hopefully we'll see a good improvement on some drainage, deep drainage on these greens, and some deeper rooting. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and take care, look after yourselves, and fingers crossed we're going to get you back here playing soon and you'll see some of the improvements we've made. Take care.